Hello everyone, this is WHT Media. On October 29th, the European Union officially approved a decision to impose high tariffs on electric vehicles made in China for a period of 5 years, effective October 30th. In addition to the existing 10% import duty on cars, the new tariffs range from 7.8% to 35.3%. Even Chinese-made Volkswagen and Mercedes-Benz vehicles will face a 20.7% tariff. This policy is undoubtedly a shock to the global electric vehicle market. This is a challenge for Chinese car makers. However, for the German and broader European automotive industries, it may be a crucial turning point. Today, we will explore the truth behind this electric vehicle war and delve into the potential impacts of this tariff policy on the global automotive industry. First, let's look at some data. In the first half of 2024, the German automotive sector experienced a comprehensive decline. Sales, revenue, profit, and employment rates all fell. Revenue in the first half of 2024 dropped by 4.7%, hitting a record low. Major German car manufacturers such as Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz have lowered their annual targets. Volkswagen's profits in the first half of the year decreased by 14%, BMW's by nearly 15%, and Mercedes by close to 16%. Among exported new cars, less than a quarter are fully electric vehicles. The crisis in the automotive sector is worsening. Sales in all related manufacturing sectors are also declining. By the end of June, the number of employees in the automotive industry was about 773,000, a 0.8% decrease from the previous year. On October 30th, the German Association of the Automotive Industry released a study showing that nearly 190,000 jobs could be lost by 2035. The automotive sector accounts for around 14% of industrial jobs in Germany, making it the second largest industry after mechanical engineering. This crisis has also severely impacted the automotive supply industry, which employs around 270,000 people. According to surveys, 60% of companies have already planned layoffs. On the other hand, to enhance competitiveness, Germany's automotive industry has invested billions of euros. From 2022 to 2026, over 220 billion euros will be invested solely in electric transportation, including research on battery technology, digitalization, and other areas. Investments will also continue in traditional fuel technologies. However, the impact of these investments has yet to be seen. In addition to Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz, the European multinational car manufacturer Stellantis has also reported setbacks. What drives the growth of Germany's automotive industry? Of course, exports. In 2023, 4.1 million vehicles were produced in Germany, 3.1 million were exported, about 75%. Between January and June of this year, approximately 1.7 million vehicles, worth 68.4 billion euros, were exported, showing almost no change from the previous year. The German Association of the Automotive Industry states that the balance in the global market is shifting. The markets in Europe and North America are shrinking, while those in China and India are experiencing strong growth and are increasingly supplied by local manufacturers. So, what specific impact does China have on the German automotive industry? Let's examine this from two angles. First, competitiveness, and second, fuel-powered vehicles. First, China is changing the competitive balance. The German automotive industry faces increasingly fierce competition from China. BYD has already replaced Volkswagen as the market leader in China. This change is largely due to China's production costs being about 35% lower than European electric vehicles, especially in battery costs. Chinese automakers are moving from low-end to high-end vehicles, rapidly taking over the auto market. For German manufacturers, the importance of the Chinese market cannot be overstated, as more than a third of their total sales are in China. For the Volkswagen Group, the Chinese market once accounted for almost half of VW's sales. BMW's deliveries in China fell nearly 30% from July to September to just under 148,000 vehicles. That means BMW is suddenly selling only a quarter of its cars in China compared to more than a third before. Mercedes-Benz saw a 13% drop in China sales, with around 171,000 vehicles sold. Porsche's sports car and SUV sales in the first half of 2024 dropped by 6.8%, partly due to weaker business in China. Of course, the consolation for German carmakers is that SAIC, China's state-owned company that focuses on fuel-efficient vehicles as well as a partner of Volkswagen, saw its car sales drop by about a third last month compared with a year ago. In fact, China's auto market has been weak for several months now. However, with the government's recent promotion of purchase incentives, new energy vehicles, especially plug-in hybrid vehicles, are booming again. A new milestone was reached in July 2024. For the first time, sales of electric vehicles surpassed those of fuel vehicles, reaching a record high of almost 900,000 units and a market share of more than 50% of all newly registered vehicles. By 2025, the government hopes to achieve at least 50% share for the whole year. To achieve this, China employs a variety of policy measures. In April 2024, the government reinstated national purchase subsidies that had been phased out 2 years ago and even doubled them at one time to around 2,250 euros. There are also additional subsidies, both explicit and implicit, such as basic exemptions from value-added tax for most EVs. Cities like Beijing and Shanghai also offer local subsidies on top of national ones. In Beijing, the subsidy matches the national level on a 1-1 basis, meaning the city provides as much as the national government. In Shanghai, there is a 40,000 yuan subsidy for each pure electric vehicle and 30,000 yuan for each plug-in hybrid on top of central government subsidies. Additionally, Beijing has a special rule. Pure electric cars are exempt from the city's license plate restriction policies. Specifically, starting from October 20, 2024, fully electric passenger vehicles registered in Beijing are exempt from the weekday peak hour regional driving restrictions. They are not required to comply with the policy that limits driving based on license plate numbers 1 day each week, allowing nearly 10,000 electric vehicles to drive freely. For car owners in Beijing frustrated by such restrictions, this is highly attractive. However, the limited range of electric vehicles still makes many people hesitant. This NEV boom largely excludes German manufacturers, as their electric vehicle models are not well suited to China's mass market or do not align with Chinese consumer preferences. Chinese competitors offer lower prices and smaller, more affordable electric vehicles. In September, BYD, the world leader in electric vehicles, saw a 45% increase in electric vehicle sales, reaching nearly 418,000 units, about half of BMW's or Mercedes-Benz's annual sales in China. Tesla also saw a 66% jump in Chinese sales in September, reaching 72,000 units, aided by significant discounts and government incentives. German luxury automakers are unlikely to avoid this price war, especially in the fuel-powered vehicle segment. So far, young Chinese automakers have mainly focused on the low to mid-end market, selling affordable, compact electric vehicles. It should be noted that 90% of China's automobile market is actually at the lower end. Volkswagen, once the leader in China, has lost significant market share because, under China's subsidies and incentives, more customers are opting for domestic electric vehicles over fuel-powered cars. Volkswagen has virtually nothing to offer in the electric vehicle space. Its partnership with Xiaopeng will begin in 2026, which could change that. Until now, Chinese manufacturers do not have quality electric vehicles at a high price point. In this regard, Chinese competitors are also making inroads into the market, such as cell phone maker Xiaomi with the Xiaomi SU7. In summary, we can draw the conclusion, whether in battery-powered or fuel-powered vehicles, German automakers are unable to offset their sales losses in China. If current market trends in China persist, German manufacturers will inevitably face the painful task of adjusting their sales and production structures, which will have profound impacts on the entire industry. In response to the EU's anti-subsidy tariffs, China has also initiated anti-dumping or anti-subsidy investigations into industries such as brandy and pork. When it comes to imported cars, the Chinese government does not need to impose retaliatory tariffs on German or European cars because their competitiveness is steadily declining. Even if assembled in Eastern Europe, Chinese automakers would still hold a 25% cost advantage over traditional EU car makers. Rather than engaging in a price war with European automakers, Chinese automakers should focus on advancing technology and continuing to strengthen their EV supply chain advantages. In any case, China's domestic auto industry is steadily moving from low-end to high-end, capturing its home market. Under these circumstances, protective tariffs and the resulting trade wars hold little significance. Now, let's look at the second point. China has started manufacturing fuel-powered vehicles. One key sign of this is China's involvement in manufacturing Mercedes-Benz's new high-performance engine. According to the German media, Tisch's Einblick, Germany, as a center for the automotive industry, is facing a real impact from Stuttgart's luxury brand Mercedes-Benz. This is because the research and production of Mercedes-Benz fuel-powered vehicles are being relocated to China. Currently, Mercedes-Benz is developing a new global hybrid engine, the M252. However, this engine will not be produced in Stuttgart, but in China, with production overseen by Mercedes quality engineers on site in Beijing to ensure quality. Engines and their associated powertrain systems are the core components of a vehicle. Again, the manufacturer in this case is not even a subsidiary of Mercedes-Benz, but an outside Chinese company. Like other automakers, due to the ban on fuel-powered vehicles, Mercedes-Benz is spinning off the development and production plants for fuel-powered vehicles into independent companies. Most internal combustion engine production has stopped in Germany or has been moved to China. Renault and Geely, the parent company of the former Swedish manufacturer Volvo, established Horsepower Limited in London, a joint venture that also includes the participation of a Saudi oil company. This new engine company has 19,000 employees and plans to supply internal combustion engines for the global market. Its subsidiary, Automotive China, formerly Geely's engine plant, has now secured an order to produce the new Mercedes-Benz M252 hybrid engine. This engine will then be shipped to Mercedes-Benz production plants in Rastatt, Germany, Hungary, and Beijing for assembly. Automotive has also announced that research and development of the new M252 engine were jointly completed by Automotive China and Mercedes-Benz, indicating that the design blueprint isn't solely from Stuttgart. Instead, R&D and manufacturing are closely integrated. Production will be fully managed by Automotive China. China, of course, is happy about this technology, as the production of engines will be shifted to China. Ironically, this technology is condemned in Germany and the European Union. This engine will also be used in Geely and Volvo models, suggesting that the internal combustion engine has not died out, but will instead be produced in China for the global market. Economist Dr. Helmut Becker has called this the destruction of Germany's automotive industry. He analyzes three perspectives. At first, the view from the academic community is that this shift has been expected for a long time. Most German car companies have already laid off or reassigned their engine engineers because by 2035, the EU will no longer allow internal combustion vehicles on the road. In the future, many new Chinese-produced internal combustion engines will enter the European market through horsepower limited. The German automotive industry, in a way, has the EU's green economy policy to thank for opening the door for Chinese internal combustion technology to enter Europe. While the European Union spends billions of euros to develop electric vehicles, which eventually go down the drain, China is at the same time vigorously developing internal combustion engine technology. This irony casts doubt on the future landscape of the global automotive industry, which may undergo a significant reshaping. The second voice comes from the industry. The CEO of Sweden's Automotive has confirmed that the EU's ban on internal combustion engines will bring about unimaginable consequences that Europeans have yet to fully grasp. In the absence of investment in Europe, China is building the most efficient internal combustion engines in the world, unlike the EU, which is withdrawing from internal combustion R&D and production. In terms of technology, CO2 emissions should be considered as a whole, not just the portion from the tailpipe. Diesel engines, when using biofuel, can be highly sustainable. Hybrid technology, that is, the combination of internal combustion engines and electric motors, will eventually dominate. Pure electric motors will not, because electric cars have the disadvantages of heavy batteries and high prices, which will not be solved for a long time. Plug-in hybrids have the cost advantage of smaller batteries and include a small internal combustion engine for long-distance driving. There is also a voice from the consumer community. Some consumers consider this practice of Mercedes-Benz, which charges high-end prices but installs the cheapest Chinese goods, to be inappropriate. This view somewhat reflects a segment of German sentiment, as some Germans deride cheap Chinese goods, while overlooking the fact that China has now taken over the legacy of Mercedes and is building on it. Where is the once proud Mercedes of the Germans? Under pressure from the EU and the German government, it is fading into history. Finally, let's take Volkswagen as an example of how the German automaker is rescuing itself from the electric vehicle crisis so far. In the first half of 2024, Germany's automotive industry faced a crisis in electric vehicle sales, dealing a significant blow to Volkswagen Group. All Volkswagen's core brands have been electronically shocked. The only one least affected is Skoda, which, having resisted the electronic transformation, is now the group's cash cow. By August 2024, Volkswagen Group was able to maintain a strong 26% market share in Europe, mainly thanks to fuel-powered cars. In contrast, Tesla, the global leader in pure electric vehicles, saw its market share drop from 2.8% to 2.3% during this period. Skoda, Volvo, Toyota, and other Japanese automakers producing small fuel-powered or hybrid vehicles emerged as the market share winners. As we discussed in a previous video, for Volkswagen to avoid EU carbon penalties, it must significantly increase its electric vehicle market share in Europe. Currently, Volkswagen's electric vehicle market share is around 13%. Experts estimate that to avoid penalties, this share must reach 25% by 2025. This means that out of an annual delivery volume of about 3 million vehicles in the EU, around 700,000 to 8,000 must be electric. In 2023, Volkswagen's electric vehicle sales in the EU were 330,000, with 770,000 globally, ranking third behind BYD and Tesla. Volkswagen still needs around 500,000 to 550,000 more electric vehicles to meet its 2025 goal of avoiding carbon penalties. Volkswagen is faced with two choices: pay a €5 billion CO2 penalty to Brussels in 2025 due to lack of sales, or avoid the penalty by drastically cutting prices, increasing electric vehicle sales, attracting new customers, and keeping electric car factories at full capacity to prevent factory closures and layoffs. But on October the 29th, the Volkswagen Union confirmed that the company does plan to close at least 3 factories, which will lead to tens of thousands of employees facing unemployment. In addition, the union also confirmed a plan to cut salaries by at least 10%, with pay freezes in 2025 and 2026. Before the union made this announcement, Volkswagen had already opted for a price cut for electric vehicles. Volkswagen has drastically reduced the price tag of its electric entry model ID.3 by more than €7,000 to under €30,000. A time-limited manufacturer's subsidy has also been introduced, which is the same as the price cut. In total, the base price of ID.3 is €29,760. This means that Volkswagen will suffer a loss of at least €7,000 for every electric car sold. The German Ministry of Finance will probably be involved in the subsidization process and may even bear most of the losses, albeit under duress. This discount program will last until the end of 2024. Meanwhile, the retail price of the fuel-powered Volkswagen Golf 8 model stands at €28,330. Volkswagen has thus managed to bring the price of the ID.3 close to that of a fuel-powered vehicle. This price reduction of electric vehicles can also be seen as a political signal, showing that the ID.3 is now almost as affordable as the fuel-powered Golf. We'll soon see if Volkswagen's electric vehicle sales can increase enough to avoid Brussels penalties. Now, it's the turn of fuel cars to be out of luck. In contrast, all manufacturers, including Volkswagen, have raised the price of fuel-efficient vehicles. According to a recent study, the price of new cars has risen dramatically in recent months. Not only have fuel cars become more expensive, but so have electric cars. Although the price increases for electric cars have been relatively modest because the starting point itself is relatively high. Against this backdrop, the price of a new car in Germany in 2023 is a record. The average price of a new car is around €44,130, which is €100 more than last year. People are still wondering why car sales in Germany have fallen by an average of 500,000 to 700,000 units since the corona epidemic. The reason is simple. Cars have become too expensive for certain income groups, and many people can no longer afford them. This has created a shortage of small, used cars. Here's the evidence, as listed by Tichy's Einblick. In 2010, the average price of a car was €26,030, while before the 2018 epidemic or the Great Inflation, it was €31,130. By 2023, the price has reached almost €45,000. This means that in just 5 years, consumers will have to pay almost half as much for a new car, a 46% increase in the cost of buying a car. As a result, many families will no longer be able to afford a car. The price study shows that since the spring of 2024, the price of fuel vehicles has risen significantly. Prices for electric vehicles have also risen, but at a significantly smaller rate, thus reducing the price gap between the two types of power. In April 2024, the price gap between fuel and electric vehicles was 30%, compared to 23% recently. In September, the average transaction price of the 20 main combustion engine models was around €33,000, more than 10% from April. Among the major electric vehicles, prices rose at a significantly slower pace of just 4% to €40,500. Volkswagen has completely closed this price gap with its price reduction campaign. Instead of offering higher discounts on electric vehicles, what manufacturers are actually doing is raising the list price of internal combustion engine vehicles. Predictably, under this strategy, German consumers faced with high fuel prices will have to delay their purchases or look for alternatives. Electric vehicles are still too expensive, and their charging infrastructure is too inadequate to fully replace the internal combustion engine. Consumers cannot support both high-priced markets at the same time, so the overall demand for automobiles will decline. As a result, the overall demand for automobiles will decline, which in turn will lead to a slow contraction of the automobile market as a whole. In addition, in terms of the performance of electric vehicles, it has been reported in the media that 1 out of every 3 EV drivers in Germany is now returning to fuel-efficient vehicles. It's not just drivers who don't know anything about electric cars who are not driving them anymore, but even many people who were aware of the advantages of electric cars are giving up on them. The heavier a car is, the more resources it takes to produce it, and the worse it performs ecologically and economically to manufacture and use. Lightweight cars obviously require less fuel, tires, brakes, etc. In addition, they can travel faster and farther than a heavier car with the same power. For this reason, automobile manufacturers have been striving to reduce weight. The fuel tank of a diesel Volkswagen Golf, for example, weighs about 70 kilograms, including 50 liters of fuel, according to German journalist and publisher Dirk Marxeiner. The owner can travel about 1,000 kilometers, fill it up in 5 minutes, and be on his way. The battery of an equivalent Volkswagen ID.3 electric car weighs between 300 and 550 kilograms, depending on its capacity, which is 4 to 8 times the weight of the fuel tank. Together with the battery, the weight of the entire vehicle can reach 1.9 tons, close to a minivan. Depending on the battery capacity and driving style, the range of an electric vehicle is between 250 and 400 kilometers, which can be significantly reduced in winter. So what is the outlook for the German automotive industry in the last quarter of this year and into 2025? We are still looking for answers. Will there be new opportunities or challenges? Share your thoughts in the comments section and let's discuss together. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.